Say? Okay. Raising our fees and raising our millage is a very hard decision. And we are all on this council at a very difficult time. And the reason why it's difficult is because, a lot of things have been delayed. Nobody wanted to raise fees. Nobody wanted to raise millage when people were suffering. When we had a little bit of a recession during COVID, and inflation being what it is, and it's just a very, very difficult thing. And I don't think that anybody wants to see us raise fees or raise millage, and so it's a very difficult thing. But I think that if we don't seriously consider doing these things and take a real hard look at these things, then we're just kicking the can down the road to the next city council. Okay, and I don't want to shy away from these hard discussions just because we're scared of not being reelected or scared about what is the public outcry going to be. We have to have these hard discussions, and we have to do it. We're going to have to be brave here. I think that we're going to have to at least vote to direct, for Mr. Pike to direct Mr. Hernandez to move forward with a rate study. Do we all agree on that? Okay. Do we have a motion for the city manager to direct our CFO to move forward with a rate study for our water and sewer rate?
Second motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Mr. Rogers, you have something for discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to be the water and sewer rate study. I think what I heard before was talking about hiring an independent firm to do that, and I thought it was a substantial sum. And I guess I would just like to hear that that is in fact a necessity versus the only thing I have concerns about with that I've expressed months ago when this first came up is I'm concerned that we haven't even done our own basic due diligence yet to turn it over to a third party now. Maybe it's right. I'm just saying, going back to the capital improvement plan. Daryl's got a PowerPoint presentation. Within it, there's some numbers. I almost feel like before we go to a third party, unless someone tells me that's a necessity, we ought to get our own act together. Heather's got like a template, and to get this stuff into a spreadsheet of the capital improvement projects that we think are necessary in the time frame, and look at that before we just, I don't know if this is how it goes, but just here, give this to a third party and $80,000. It's a lot of money per water meter user essentially. So that's the only thought, and I'd be curious to hear the staff if it's something that's necessary. It is, but just in light of, I want to make sure that we've done as much as we can internally to look at that, and before we've paid the third party consultant $80,000. And yeah, please speak. I mean, I could be speaking way out of turn.
Absolutely a fair question. I'm all for do it yourself if we can do it ourselves, but if we can't do it ourselves, I want to recognize that early and go ahead and not lose time. Vice Mayor?
Sorry, just as clarification then, it was my understanding that the motion in this was to direct staff to do the study first. We were not voting on a third party because I haven't seen a cost in front of me for that, right? Is this?
No.
Okay.
We would have to, would we put out an RFP
Yes,
to figure out who would do the study for us? And then
we have some piggyback contractors that will be able to go ahead and do the work. I mean, the rate goes from $72,000 to $75,000. I think within 6 and 9 months.
But we can't, if we would like to borrow money in the future to pay for this, we cannot borrow the money without that independent study showing that we are able to pay it back. And we have the income coming in and with the funds going out.
So we have to have an independent study.
If we're going to borrow money, if we're ready to borrow money, yes, ma'am. If we are wanting to look at it in-house and in some other avenues, then that's not necessarily a must. But if we are looking to borrow money, we have to be able to have that study to show that we can pay the money back. And they won't loan it to us without it.
Go ahead. And sorry, if we're
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about water and sewer rates, okay, maybe I'm thinking of two separate things here. Water and sewer rates, I would think that if we're looking to see, do we need to raise the rates? Why would we need to have why would we be borrowing money for that? In my head, it would be, let's see, what, we're looking at a cost analysis of what's going out, what are we getting in?
Yes, ma'am. That is two different issues. Yes.
Okay.
We haven't raised the rates in several years, obviously, for whatever reason. And however, I don't doubt for one second that needs to be addressed. But if in the future we would like to borrow money for Mr. Calhoun to expedite some repairs and stuff, we have to have that study to show that we can pay the money back.
Gotcha. So
The two totally different issues.
if we needed to borrow money to do something in our capital improvement plan, we need to have a study to show that we would be able to pay that money back based on the enterprise funds generated from our water and sewer
That's
fund.
correct.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
in order to figure out whether or not, or what our future water and sewer fund rates would be, we need to engage a third party who we can piggyback off of current contracts to get this rate study
That's correct.
completed. And to take it a step farther, it seems like the gentleman from Purvis Gray said that we are out of compliance right now on a current debt that we have.
That's correct.
And so doing this water and sewer rate would put us back into compliance on that.
Well,
would
if
be
we raise, let's say, for example, $5 million in revenue, we increase 5%, which is the consumer price index, that will give us like $250,000 of additional revenue. Now, we need to have 1.25% of the of net income from the more senior debt that we have. So
Okay.
right now we have $350,000. Our net income should be like 525. We're getting about $150,000, so we're not in compliance with that requirement. The other thing is, we need to have 3 months of operating expenses as a reserve. Is mandatory. Now we have the money right now in the bank, but if we continue to use it for other projects, we will deplete that reserve.
Gotcha,
Other projects that aren't funded because the rates are too low.
gotcha.
So, I don't know, I feel like this has been a full circle moment of when we talk about the money we're spending on these like third parties to do all these studies, and sometimes I know that I get feedback from the public about
Yeah.
why did we just spend another $80,000 on this? I think what you just said tonight put it so clearly of the fact that like we have to spend that money, which seems so counterproductive, it doesn't make any sense to me, but that we have to have this done in order to participate in the grants. I always knew that we needed the money in order to participate, but we also have the study that's like firm proof to them for it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
it's like it's a third party. It's like if you were to go to a bank for a loan, they want to know that someone else has independently looked at your finances, you can afford it. A rate study will also look not only operating costs but at capital. To the point about how much we need, and you can go watch the presentation as Councilor Rogers alluded to. I kind of laid out the State of the Union. The 2 biggest drivers right now are Senate Bill 64 and AWT due in January 2032 and January 33, and we have to start engineering. I'm suggesting pick an engineer this calendar year. If not, we're just going to be competing for the same contractor resources as we get closer to the deadline. A rate study could give you a menu and say, here are your operating costs, here are your capital needs, as we know them today. Single 64 AWT are the 2 big drivers. Everything else is how aggressive you want to be in rebuilding the infrastructure. But you could say, hey, Mr. Rate Study guy, give me the matrix of if we were to raise rates 5% a year, here's how much capital you could go borrow. If it was 6% a year, here's how much capital. And then we could back into, okay, what are the priorities for building?
So it seems like we need the study before we do the CIP and not the other way around.
That's kind of what can you afford? It's no different than if you were to go renovate your home. You would want to look at how much can I afford to go borrow. That would then inform what projects you could afford.
I understand.
Yep.
Councilman?
I'm not 100% sold on that. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a statutory requirement, but a debt service coverage ratio or whatever else, I mean, these can be internally calculated by Jaime, just like he's doing now. He can say, if we're supposed to generate a certain amount, whether it be a certain amount of cash flow or a certain margin of cash flow, and that's a covenant of the debt. I mean, these are commercial lending terms that it does not require a third party to document your compliance with that. A lender might pay some consultant to look at that before they extend you credit. That may or may not be the case with the state of Florida bonds, but tell me I'm crazy. I mean, you can calculate if we're our debt service, and you can capitalize that across a potential loan. I see you nodding.
Well, you're
Speak up.
required to have a data validation document to be able to borrow money to do capital programming. And if you have a qualified professional that can provide that data validation, the projection of the cost over the period of time and the revenue source based on growth projections that can be validated by a professional, that's what you have to have. It doesn't say exactly who has to do it, but you have to have the data validation document.
It's basically the audit. I do the work. The audit comes over here and says these financial statements are correct. That's basically the assurance that the bank will look for it.
So I don't think that you're wrong, Mr. Rogers. I think that the calculation could be made, but like in the practical world and knowing that we, A, have some debt right now, we still owe $350,000, and B, it's highly likely that we're going to have to borrow money and get a bond to comply with Senate Bill 64. So we know we're going to have to do these things. It's not a question of will we have to. We will definitely have to. So we need this independent
Right.
study. We have to have it.
We have $1 million in debt. We paid $350,000, including the interest rate.
Okay.
Is it 1.5 or is it 1?
No, it has come down. It's one on the audit. It said $1.2 million.
Gotcha.
And we already paid another payment, so we are close to $1 million.
Okay. I thought that I remembered that, but I got really excited when I heard that we owe $350,000, so
That's my next
I
payment.
was wrong. All right. Does anybody else have any questions on this? Because we do have a motion and a second to direct Mr. Hernandez to move forward with the rate study.
And to clarify, because the amount of the study will be outside of general spending, we're instructing them to go do it, but they'll have to bring it back for us to approve the expenditure.
Yes.
So
Oh,
it's
yes,
not
sir.
like it's not coming back to us yet.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
y'all would have
Thank
to
you.
vote, y'all would have to vote to
Yeah.
approve the spending of the money.
Yeah, so just directing staff to like, go get the quotes, bring the best proposal forward, bring it to us. We'll
That's
vote on it.
correct. Yes, sir.
Just as they do with plenty of other items.
Thank you for that clarification. Anybody else have any question on this before we call it to a vote? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilor Horvath,
Yes.
Councilor Messenger,
Yes.
Councilor Rogers,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Livingston.
Yes.
Mayor Bottom.
Yes. All right, the next